Welcome back to The Playful Lens. This episode is a little bit different because instead of our usual conversation with a guest, it's just me, Gillian, and a question that's been sitting with me for a while. Sometimes I think it's good to pause the interviews and to step into reflection, to slow the pace, to think out loud together. So this episode is a thought experiment. I want us to imagine something uncomfortable. What would happen if play disappeared from primary school tomorrow? Not reduced, not squeezed, but gone. Gone entirely. What would we lose for children, for teachers, and for the kind of education that we say we value? This isn't about nostalgia. And it's not just about infant classrooms either. It's about all children, all classrooms. It's about identity. It's about professionalism. And it's about the future of Irish primary education. So, let's imagine it. Imagine this. It's 8:45 a.m. You open your classroom door. The corridor is quiet. The lights flicker on. You put your bag down and you take out your planner. You glance around the room, but something feels different. The role play corner is gone. The maths games cupboard is empty. There's no half-built project on the windowsill, no messy evidence of yesterday's investigations, no imagination lingering in the corners. The walls are neat. The tables are perfectly aligned. The learning intentions are written clearly on the board. Everything is in its place. Everything is efficient. The bell rings and the children walk in quietly. They sit. They open their books. But no one asks, "What are we doing today?" with that spark of anticipation. No one negotiates roles. No one whispers a dramatic plan for the history simulation they've been crafting. There's no debate, no collaborative buzz, no laughter spilling into the corridor. Because overnight, play has disappeared. It hasn't been reduced. It hasn't been deprioritized. It has been erased. And the room feels muted. Still productive, still organized, still covering content, but muted. As though someone has turned down the volume on curiosity. As though the color has been softened. As though the energy has been dialed back. At first glance, nothing appears wrong. The curriculum will still be covered. The assessments will still be completed. The copies will still be corrected. But something essential is missing. So for this episode, I want you to sit with that. If play disappeared from primary school tomorrow, what would we really lose? Well, we would lose curiosity. That would be one of the first casualties. And not just surface level curiosity, not the hands in the air. I mean the instinct to ask, what if? What happens if I try this? What would change if? Play is how children test the world safely. In infant classrooms, this is quite obvious. But in middle and senior classrooms, it becomes more sophisticated. It looks like designing and redesigning and testing maybe a bridge in a STEM challenge. Arguing a historical perspective that you don't personally agree with. Creating a maths puzzle that's difficult enough to challenge your peers. Rewriting the end of a novel just to see how the theme shifts. Without play, playfulness and playful learning, learning becomes consumption. With play, learning becomes exploration. And exploration is what drives deep understanding. If everything becomes tightly structured, purely outcome-driven, always moving forward to the next objective, we might still cover the content, but we won't cultivate thinkers. Curiosity needs oxygen. Play is that oxygen. When play is muted, curiosity is muted with it. We would also lose belonging. Play is social glue. It's how children negotiate fairness. It's how they test leadership. It's how they practice compromise, how they discover each other and their relationships with each other. In older classes, play evolves. It becomes strategic team challenges, mock trials in history, collaborative design tasks, structured debates, shared humour. Without play, classrooms risk becoming transactional. Complete the task, hand it in, move on. Belonging does not grow in transactions, but it grows in shared experiences. Those shared experiences become the stories that define a class. Hey, do you remember when the science experiment failed spectacularly? Do you remember when the classroom became a courtroom? Remember when groups argued passionately about the best solution? Those moments create culture. Without them, the room will function, but it becomes muted. And here in Ireland, where we speak about well-being, student voice, partnership, and holistic development, we have to ask, where do these things actually live? Well, they live in interaction. They live in dialogue. They live in play. We would lose cognitive depth. Here is where play is most misunderstood. Play is not the opposite of rigor. Often, it is the pathway to it. When children engage playfully, they rehearse ideas, they test hypotheses, they revise their thinking, they take intellectual risks. A worksheet checks recall, but a simulation reveals understanding. A debate brings up nuance. A design challenges and exposes misconceptions. Without play, learning risks becoming performance. Children learn to produce the correct answer. But do they learn to wrestle with complexity? Do they revise their thinking? Do they sit in uncertainty long enough to deepen it? Depth requires iteration. Depth requires emotional engagement. Depth requires space. When play is muted, depth can be muted too. We would lose joy. Not glitter and balloons joy, although I love that joy, but intellectual joy. The joy of figuring something out. The joy of collaborative success. The joy of realizing you were wrong and growing because of it. Emotion strengthens memory. Engagement strengthens retention. When children care, learning sticks. If play disappears, classrooms may become quieter, but they may also become flatter. And let's say this clearly, teachers would lose something too. Designing playful learning is creative work. It's professional artistry. It's thoughtful design. And when that becomes muted, something within us dims too. And teacher energy matters, because energy is contagious. We would lose our professional identity. If play disappears, what happens to how we see ourselves? Are we technicians? Are we deliverers of content? Are we managers of pace? Or are we designers of learning experiences? In Ireland right now, we are navigating curriculum redevelopment. There is language around competencies, key skills, student agency, well-being. But here is a quiet truth. Play is how those ambitions become real. If we value creativity, children must create. If we value critical thinking, children must argue, test, revise. If we value agency, children must decide. If we value well-being, children must belong and be well. Play is not separate from these goals. It's how they breathe. If we mute play, those aspirations risk becoming muted too. If imagining a school without play feels uncomfortable, then why do we sometimes treat it as optional? Why is it often the first thing that's squeezed when time tightens? Why can playful pedagogies in older classes feel risky? Perhaps because it looks different. Perhaps because it's harder to measure. Perhaps because seriousness has been confused with quality. But seriousness is not the same as depth. Silence is not the same as thinking. Busyness is not the same as learning. So let's return to the classroom. It's 8:45 a.m. The door opens, the lights flicker on, the tables are aligned. And in that moment, before the children arrive, you decide what kind of room this will be. Efficient or alive, compliant or curious, muted or vibrant. Because play does not disappear dramatically. It fades, it softens, it gets squeezed, it becomes muted in small daily decisions, covering the curriculum, pace, seriousness, getting the real work done. And I understand those pressures. I understand curriculum change. I understand the conversations around assessment, the expectations around progression. But here is the line that we draw. Deep learning does not require muting play. Depth does not require dulling energy. Professionalism does not require silencing imagination. Some of the deepest learning I have seen in our primary classrooms, particularly in middle and senior classes, have come through playful design, through simulation, through structured debate, through creative constraint, through collaborative change, not instead of the curriculum, but through it. So here is the call, not gentle, not optional. Do not let your classroom become muted. When time tightens, protect play. When it is questioned, articulate its purpose. When it feels easier to default to control, pause and reconsider. Because playful pedagogy is not chaos. It's crafted. It's intentional. It's professional. So tomorrow morning, or whenever you return to your classroom, when the door opens and the lights flicker on, pause and decide. Will this room be muted or will it be alive? Design accordingly. Choose exploration. Choose dialogue. Choose imagination. Choose courage. Because play is not a luxury. Play is not a reward. Play is not a break from learning. Play is a way of learning. And if we want classrooms that are rigorous and humane, structured and alive, professional and deeply human, then we must refuse to mute what makes learning breathe. Don't let it fade. Don't let it soften. Don't let it be quietly dialed down. Protect it. Build it. Defend it. And keep looking at your classroom through a playful lens. If this episode stirred something in you, and I hope it did, don't let that feeling fade by tomorrow. Share it. Start the conversation in your staff room. Bring it to your planning meeting. Ask the question out loud. Where is the play in this? Not as an add-on, not as a reward, but as a way of deepening learning. And if you're listening on your commute, or on a walk, or in the quiet after a long school day, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to reflect. That matters. And so, if this episode resonated, share it with a colleague. Tag us or send us a message. We love hearing how these conversations land in real classrooms. So keep protecting what matters. Keep designing learning that is alive. And keep looking at your classroom through a playful lens. Remember to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram and get in touch